Ecologists are scientists who study the interactions between living organisms and their environment. They use their knowledge to help mitigate the impacts of human activities on natural ecosystem and to conserve and manage biodiversity. So how do you go about becoming an ecologist? Thanks to everyone watching. This is Wild Watch Careers, helping you take your love of nature, wildlife, and the outdoors and turn it into a fulfilling career. Today we're going to talk about how to become an ecologist. Before we begin, just wanted to mention to anyone that's interested in getting some free job coaching to kick off your career in ecology, environmental science, or any related natural science field like biology, there's a free course that you can follow by going to wildwatchcareers.com. You can find the link in the description. I highly recommend it. You can get access to resume templates, a job search directory, and more. Also be sure to follow this channel and like the video if you want to see more content like this. So with that being said, today I'm going to talk about how to become an ecologist. Ecologists may be employed by a variety of organizations, including ecological consultancies, government agencies, and nonprofit organizations. Today, I'm going to talk about ecologists more in the sense of the scientific term. This means not discussing ecological consultancies. I will tackle that in another video. I will also skip discussing the academia route for ecologists, meaning becoming a university researcher, then getting your master's, PhD, postdoc, and then becoming a professor. This type of ecologist that I'm specifically talking about right here is more along the lines of someone that will be working for an NGO or a governmental agency. So this really can be a lot of different job titles that you might see, but some of the most common ones are ecologist, biologist, wildlife biologist, wetland ecologist, marine biologist, and then you might also have some more specific ones such as fish biologist or ornithologist, maybe specializing in a specific type of animal. One of the main tasks of ecologists is to conduct surveys of species and habitats. This often involves obtaining relevant species licenses for your area, such as those required for protected species, and using various techniques to identify and assess the abundance and distribution of plants, animals, and other organisms. Ecologists may also perform mitigation work, such as designing and implementing measures to reduce the impact of development and construction on wildlife. Project management skills are essential for ecologists, as they often work on large, complex projects that involve multiple stakeholders. Ecologists must be skilled at liaising with clients and stakeholders, leading teams of researchers and technicians, and organizing and communicating project goals, timelines, and results. They must also be able to write reports and contribute to planning, as well as analyze data and draw meaningful conclusions. Ecologists may also be involved in conducting environmental impact assessment, which are used to evaluate the potential environmental impacts of a proposed project. This requires an understanding of laws and regulations such as the Endangered Species Act and the ability to communicate the results of the assessment to stakeholders. Technical skills are important for ecologists. They may use tools such as R or Python or GIS to analyze and visualize data, or to create models that simulate ecological processes. Field skills are also essential, as ecologists often spend time outdoors collecting data and monitoring wildlife. So, how do you do all this? How do you go about becoming an ecologist? Well, you probably have to get at least a bachelor's degree, preferably a master's, or equivalent experience, meaning you need to have worked any of the above that I just mentioned. But if you're just starting out, my advice is to find out what is relevant in your area, or at least the area where you would like to work if you're open to travel. So check out some of the big organizations that exist by you, either NGOs or government agencies like your local DNR, some of the big names out there like Worldwide Fund for Nature, National Geographic, IUCN, and then take a look at what are some of the common job titles like ecologist, wildlife biologist, marine biologist, and so on. Look for what are the requirements. For instance, if you're in the UK, you will see that bat surveys are important because there's a lot of bats, and there's also legislation to protect bats, and so you might need a bat license to do any work involving serving bats. On the other hand, in the US, you have the NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and you may need to have a permit in order to work with marine wildlife. You can find all this information in the job description section of the place you're looking to work. So familiarize yourself with what is commonly sought after in your area. This is really important because otherwise you're just going to get generalist knowledge. You need to really be specific towards what is important where you would like to work. Obviously, an internship or traineeship would be great if you can find one, but any volunteering activity is going to help on your resume to get you that first job. For example, if you're at a university studying, or recently you did so, you can reach out to your professors and see what kind of work they're doing and ask if you can volunteer. Usually, they're really happy to just get free help, just like that, and you can put that on your resume. There's also a lot of volunteer positions posted on organizations' websites and job websites. They often don't pay, but the experience is very valuable. As for obtaining the technical skills, I would go to a site such as DataCamp or Coursera, a site that teaches R, Python, or GIS, and I would just go ahead and get a certificate. Those are really, really cheap, often free, and it's a very easy way for you to just write something down on your CV as a technical skill and to learn it. And you will find that you'll actually be on a pretty high level compared to your peers that didn't do that and only studied those technical skills in university. So some stuff to put on your CV when applying: your education or equivalent experience, that you know R, statistics, GIS, or any of your technical skills, fieldwork skills, potentially some lab work skills like analyzing samples, project management skills like teamwork, organization planning, and report writing. And with a resume like that, you can find a basic entry-level job as an ecologist or similar type of role. Before I go on, just another reminder to go check out wildwatchcareers.com, where there's a course which outlines this at length. It's completely free. You can make a free account. Highly suggested. And another reminder to go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more content like this. I'm just going to answer one really, really big question I get whenever I talk about this stuff before we wrap up here. And this is, what is the difference between an ecologist and an ecological consultant? So the two can actually overlap quite a bit depending on who you're employed by, but I will kind of give an extreme example of both ends of the spectrum to drive the point. So an ecologist would work, for instance, for an NGO or like a marine biology research institute or something like that, more on the science side of things. Like they might do research, they might collect and analyze samples, they might analyze data, they might write reports that are aligned with the organization's goals. On the other hand, an ecological consultant is more someone who could be employed for a private consultancy and might help to work and prepare bids for development or construction in a certain area. They might have to do environmental impact assessments, and they have to know legislation and laws. Like for instance, in the US, there's the Endangered Species Act of, I think, 1973, so they have to know about that, they have to be aware of these legislation, and they have to know all these techniques to survey protected species and assess the impact that the construction or development of the area they're working would have on these species that are protected. So there is overlap, of course, but again, typically it's one is more about consulting with businesses and companies on where to build, and it's about giving an ecological perspective of that. Whereas an ecologist in a non-consultancy role would be more, again, someone working for a government agency like a DNR or some kind of an NGO, and they would be doing more research, more on the research side of things. The job is similar, the techniques needed are similar, and you might also find some positions labeled as ecologist when really they're ecological consultant, or vice versa. Typically, this is the difference. So think about which one you're more interested in and get out there and apply. So that does it. Again, a reminder to follow the channel, to check out wildwatchcareers.com for some more free content on this, and until next time.